Listen-only mode.
Good afternoon. We have just gavelled in on day one of the California Transportation Commission's 2 days of meetings, August 18th and 19th. Douglas, could you please read the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Alvarado.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Eager. Commissioner Grisby.
Present.
Commissioner Guardino. Commissioner Inman. Commissioner Inman, we see you. Thank you. Commissioner Kehoe. Commissioner Liu.
Here.
Commissioner Martinez. Thank you. Commissioner Tavaloni.
Here.
Chair Norton.
Present.
Senator Newman. Assemblymember Friedman. Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Did you catch Commissioner Kehoe and Eager? We're here now.
I see them now. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Great. Douglas, could you please read how the public participates in our meetings today?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Welcome to the August 2021 CTC virtual meeting. Please note that because this is a 2-day meeting, you will need to use a separate link to attend the meeting tomorrow. Links can be found on the first page of the meeting agenda on our website. Please use the questions tab if you have questions about this. The CTC exists to make transportation planning, funding, and policy more understandable and accountable. Our meetings normally take place in diverse locations around the state so the commissioners can see firsthand the variety of infrastructure issues around California. However, containment measures surrounding COVID-19 have required us to adjust to a webinar format. Please bear with us should we encounter any technical challenge. The Commission's meeting agenda is available in the Handouts tab and can be downloaded and saved during the webinar. Excuse me. It can also be found on the Commission's website. For this meeting, live closed captioning, Spanish language, and American Sign Language translations are being provided. You can access these services through links found on our meetings page under the August 18th, 19th meeting heading. Commissioners, should you have questions or comments during the meeting, please let us know by raising your hand or otherwise get our attention on camera and wait for the chair to call on you. You can also send inquiries and comments through the questions tab that can be read to presenters and the audience on your behalf. Please mute your microphone except when you intend to speak to minimize outside noise and feedback. The chair will do her best to call on each of you in turn. We hope that you will turn on your camera while speaking if you have one. Because this meeting is not an in-person meeting, every vote will need to be a roll call vote. Staff will group items for votes to help save time. Please only speak when called upon. When called upon, please state your name and briefly make your point. But please ask that no one speak a second time on any one item until everyone who wishes to speak a first time has done so. For our presenters, if you're on the agenda to make a presentation, please do your best to be succinct. We hope that you also turn on your camera during your presentation if you have one. To the members of the public, we welcome comments from the public as part of each item at this meeting. We encourage you to use the raise hand feature as early into the item as you can to give the system time to acknowledge you. For participants joining us through the GoToWebinar system, please find the webinar panel, likely located to the right-hand side of your screen. There you'll find the audio, questions, and handouts tab. Under the audio tab, attendees will have the choice to listen via computer or telephone option. Should you prefer a computer option, please ensure the appropriate box is selected. If you choose a phone call option, select the corresponding box, dial the phone number, access code, and enter the audio pin as directed by the automated system. Please note that if the audio pin is not entered, you will remain in listen-only mode and will be unable to speak to the Commission should you have a comment. As a reminder, each registered attendee is provided a unique link, phone number, and access to the webinar. These cannot be shared with other participants as they are registered to a specific attendee. There are 2 options for participants to provide comments on agenda item. Click the hand icon to indicate you wish to make a comment. You will then be unmuted and called upon to make your comment. Please be sure you state your name and any affiliation you might have prior to voicing your remarks. Alternately, you may use the questions tab, type in the agenda item number you are commenting on and your comment. Commission staff will read the comment on your behalf. Please do your best to be concise with your comments. Also, please make sure that your comments add new information. If you agree with the comments of a previous speaker, simply make that statement. Since we often have many speakers, we ask that you make your point in 3 minutes or less. If for some reason we have many speakers on a topic, we reserve the right to limit the comments to 1 minute if needed. A timer may be displayed on screen during public comments. You will not be able to be on camera while making comments. Thank you for joining us today. We know your time is valuable and we appreciate you sharing some of it with us. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Douglas. And I do recognize that Commissioner Gardino has joined us as well.
Thank you.
Great. Fantastic. With that, we're going to take items 2, 3, and 4 together. Douglas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Item number 2 is the minutes from the June 23rd, and 24th meeting of the Commission. Item number 3 are the minutes from the June 30th special meeting of the Commission. And item number 4 are the Commissioners' meeting for compensation. Staff recommends your approval on all these items.
Avalone, move it.
Alvarado, second.
Douglas, can you please read the roll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Alvarado.
Excuse me,
Yes, sir.
Madam Chair, just a point of order. Can I make a comment on this before I vote on it? I did not attend the June 30th meeting because you scheduled it during my vacation, but I did go back and watch it. So I think that it's okay for me to vote on this for approval of the minutes. Right?
Thank you. I think
Okay.
it would be
We don't
okay
have
to
to
approve the
separate
minutes.
them all out. Okay. Thank you. Sorry.
Douglas, please resume your roll call.
Commissioner Alvarado.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Eager.
Aye.
Commissioner Grisby.
Aye.
Commissioner Guardino.
Aye.
Commissioner Inman. Thank you. I see you voted aye. Commissioner Kehoe.
Aye.
Commissioner Liu.
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez.
Aye.
Commissioner Tavoloni.
Aye.
Chair Norton.
Aye.
Chair, the item is approved.
Thank you very much. With that, we will move to Executive Director Mitch Weiss of the CTC.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'll begin my report today with some updates on our meeting format. It's hard to believe that we've been conducting our commission meetings virtually now for almost a year and a half. I'm pleased to say that we've had very few technical issues during this time, that our attendance and public participation have remained robust. However, when we started planning today's meeting back in June, we had hoped to be able to allow both in-person and virtual participation. Ultimately, we decided that it would be safest for everyone to have a virtual-only meeting, given the changing direction of the pandemic and the recent updates to public health requirements. Looking ahead, I want to make everyone aware that we will need to have an in-person quorum at our October meeting, unless there is an extension of the executive order currently in effect modifying the state requirements for public meetings. We'll be monitoring the situation and we'll let everyone know of any changes to the format of our next meeting as soon as we can. Also, I wanted to make everyone aware of several changes that we recently implemented to improve accessibility of our meetings. First, we began providing live closed captioning at the June Commission meeting, and we'll be providing it going forward. Second, we now have an interpreter available upon request for any commission meeting in multiple languages, including Spanish, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese, and American Sign Language. And finally, translation of meeting materials is also available upon request in multiple languages, including Spanish, Chinese, Korean, and Vietnamese. We hope these improvements will enhance participation and encourage stakeholders and the public to make use of, and we encourage the stakeholders and the public to make use of these as needed and provide us with any feedback. Later on our agenda, we'll be hearing from the American Road and Transportation Builders Association about a new study they released showing the tremendous impacts that transportation investments have on our state's economy. This study estimates that every billion spent on transportation supports over 15,000 jobs throughout the economy. As we continue to talk about our funding needs to address maintenance, safety, climate change, and other priorities, I think it's important that we highlight these economic and job creation benefits as well. This is being recognized at the federal level with the U.S. Senate's Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act that would provide a much-needed infusion of over $500 billion federal dollars for transportation. And at the state level, I'm hopeful that the state budget will ultimately provide over $3 billion in one-time general fund increases for transit, active transportation, and climate resiliency, which are contingent upon the enactment of additional legislation. These augmentations not only would fund greatly needed transportation improvements, but also create thousands of jobs and help spur along California's economic recovery. Commissioners, also want to let you know that we've been continuing our focus on enhancing equity and climate change considerations in our work. Later on our agenda, we'll be recommending adoption of a resolution directing staff to move forward with a robust public development process to incorporate strategies identified in the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure into our programming guidelines where applicable. These strategies will complement the Commission's commitment to addressing climate change, equity, active transportation, safety, public health, and the reduction of congestion through innovative strategies. Also on our agenda, we'll be hearing a report from Equity Advisory Roundtable member Russell Rawlings on our recent equity-focused discussions. Our next roundtable meeting will be held on Thursday, September 16th via webinar. More details on that meeting will be forthcoming. I'd also like to provide an update on an item that we heard at our June meeting regarding the sale of one of the 710 properties located in South Pasadena at 626 Prospect Place. Because litigation had been initiated regarding the sale of this property, you passed a motion to defer that item to today's meeting. Since that time, the court granted a preliminary injunction blocking the sale, so we will not be hearing that item today. It may be a while before this comes before you again, given the court set a hearing date for May 2022. Also, we've had several parties reaching out to us recently about the current sales process for the 710 properties. Several commissioners went on a tour of some of the properties last Saturday, and the chair will share some highlights during her report. Given the heightened interest in this issue, staff is working on organizing a listening session sometime in the coming months so we can hear from all interested parties and stakeholders. We're working to identify the best timing for this listening session, given that one bill has been signed into law recently regarding the 710 property sales process, and another bill is pending, and Caltrans will need to implement regulations to implement these bills. We're consulting with Caltrans on the timing, and of course, we'll be extending an invitation for them to participate. We'll report back to you as soon as we've selected the date. I'd also like to take a moment to share with you some of the efforts that Commissioner Inman and two of our staff, Hannah Walter and Matthew Yazgat, have undertaken that ultimately could improve the freight supply chain in California. They've been meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers regarding a possible partnership to support California in better planning freight flow and intermodal connectedness, developing analytics, and modeling potential impacts of random disruptions to the freight system. The Army Corps staff that they're meeting with have published several articles of research on freight disruption, and they've mapped commercial vessel traffic connectivity between major ports. Staff is hoping to work with Caltrans to secure a contract with the Army Corps that could help improve California's resiliency and system efficiency overall. As this work continues, we hope to have an agenda item at a future commission. I'd also like to make a few announcements on upcoming workshops and meetings, as well as staffing. Next Tuesday, August 24th, we'll be holding a virtual kickoff workshop for the SB1 competitive programs from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. We've also posted save the dates for future workshops throughout the remainder of the year. These are posted on the Commission's website. On Wednesday, October 13th and Thursday the 14th, we'll be holding our next regular Commission meeting. As I mentioned earlier, we'll make everyone aware of the format of the location of the meeting as soon as we can. Regarding staffing, I'm pleased to announce one new hire. Naveen Habib has joined our team as an Associate Deputy Director and will be managing the Solutions for Congested Corridors program. Previously, Naveen served in the Executive Office of the California Justice Information Services Division at the Department of Justice, where she developed policy for the division and managed and directed the operations of multiple teams with varying disciplines, including legislation, policy, regulation, special projects, grants, and training. We've also had two staff leave us recently, and I wanted to thank them for their service. Sheila Ennis finished her service with the Commission last Thursday. Sheila was instrumental in assisting the engineering team with a variety of analysis, including data analysis for supplemental funds requests, amendments, and allocations. She left us for a promotional position at Caltrans District 3 in Marysville. We wish Sheila good luck in her new role and her future endeavors. Michael Joseph's last day at the commission was last Friday. Michael assisted with the road charge and the trade corridor enhancement program. He accepted a promotional position in Caltrans' Office of Sustainable Freight Planning. We wish him well and look forward to working with him in his new role. And perhaps the most important thing that occurred since our June meeting was that I went on vacation. And so I will take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about my vacation. Next slide, please. I rode on 99. We're going to move these faster. Come on. 120. I visited our new diverging double diamond interchange, State Route 180, beautiful state route, Route 198, US 50, Interstate 5, Route 44, Route 273, Route 299, Route 200, US 101. I went over the last chance grade twice. I was not stuck in traffic like this. Caltrans had two 4-hour-a-day closures, and they were well publicized, so I knew in advance when it was open and when it wasn't. US 199, Route 16, Route 49, Route 4. I saw a lot of really big trees. That concludes my presentation. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions about my vacation or anything else.
Thank you. Commissioner Liu has a comment. It may or may not be about your vacation. Commissioner Liu.
I'm not sure that I did have a comment, but I will say that I took a mini vacation driving up from Los Angeles to Berkeley on Sunday to drop off my kid at school for freshman year, and didn't hit as many highways and routes and freeways as Mitch did, but I did have a similar experience in that I certainly saw the need and the benefit for Fix It First along the freeways that we did take, because there were patches that were not so great. And I was explaining to my family in the car, that it's those heavy trucks that are and buses that are making this road bumpy. Our light car doesn't really do damage here. But we're investing in fixing these, and then we would hit a patch that's been done with SB1 money, and I would say, see how good it is when we were able to fix it. So we did have quite the experience. I would say that when heading north from the 5 to the intersection of the 5 and the 99, that was probably the bumpiest part we felt. So I assume that's on our list of things to get to. And it was quite the experience, but I didn't get to see as many nice trees as Mitch did on my trip.
That's great. Well, Commissioner Eager agrees with the 99 as a big effort for us. Commissioner Kehoe, I know you had some comments as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mitch, I think the vacation pictures were great, particularly in light of your day job. I think you should be doing a State Routes in California Instagram feed. Start putting them up. We can get millions of likes from all over the world. But what I really wanted to say to you, Mitch, was I know you're coming down to San Diego next week, and I regret that I'm not going to be able to join you, but I think it's an important visit. And I know talking to Sandag yesterday, they're looking forward to it very much, to give you a full day of visits to important issues, important projects. In particular, of course, the Del Mar Bluffs always needs more attention. The railroad right-of-way on the overlooking the ocean. The Otay Mesa East port of entry, very important. North Coast Corridor and other projects. And I'm hoping once we come to a new determination on COVID, we can have a commission visit down here and have all of us look at those projects together. So I hope it's very productive. I'm sure you'll have a very informative visit. So thanks for making time to visit San Diego.
It's my pleasure, Commissioner, and I too hope that we can start visiting different parts of the state, not just to make it easier on people who come to our meetings, but the tour, from my perspective, the tours that we went on in conjunction with commission meetings really allowed us to go see some of the projects firsthand, to see some of the problems firsthand, are really an important part of what we do. And I definitely miss those.
Thank you. Well, if that concludes your report, I don't believe we need to take an action on any of the things that you reported on. So the next will be my report today. And so the chair report, I'd like to add a few things. First, I would like to congratulate Sacramento's Regional Transit District for receiving, and I think we have a slide on this, for receiving the American Public Transportation Association's Outstanding Transit System in the nation. And that is extraordinary. We are very, very proud of you and the work that you did, especially to make sure that you were able to provide during COVID shuttles in order to not only move people, but provide Wi-Fi in communities that did not have Wi-Fi service. It's part of the excellence of our California agencies, and we're just delighted that this was achieved and recognized by APTA. Congratulations. Speaking of what we're doing in the nation as a model for the nation, I wanted to highlight that we have continued our work, strong work with CalSTA and Caltrans to talk to our congressional delegation, especially as the Senate and House transportation bills and infrastructure bills are moving forward. There's going to be future discussion of this, but it has been remarkable that our three entities continue to speak with one voice and demonstrate our collaborative capabilities and vision as we're going to in meeting with the federal government. And I look forward to Paul's report to talk about what we're achieving on the state and federal side and what's still in process. In addition, we're so excited about the discussion of the CAPTI process today and how that, again, is pointing out and leading the nation in some goals about climate action and goals about having our infrastructure not only focus on moving people, but making sure that our grid is ready to support the move to electrification and new fuels so that we can achieve the goals that we've all set out and address the fuel standards and other movement capabilities that are so important to us. I am looking forward to the presentations about the issues we have to discuss regarding freight electrification. That is going to be heard tomorrow, one of our first meetings with Chris Shimoda. And I'm also pleased that we are reflecting in our agendas the input we're receiving from our Equity Roundtable, not only in the reports from the Equity Roundtable itself, but the report discussions about how to make our meetings more accessible and our communications more accessible. And we are adding equity conversations in everything we do. And so we want to make sure that people are seeing that even before our listening sessions, the roundtable is making important changes with us to how we make all of our meetings more accessible and more participatory throughout the state. So thank you. And I thank our staff for moving quickly to implement a lot of these recommendations because so many more people are participating with us and looking at the work that we do. With that, I want to talk about a couple of field trips that we took. Commissioner Liu and I went to visit the Inglewood Transit Connector and the future site as well as SoFi Stadium and looking at how we're going to make the readiness for the Super Bowl, the World Cup, the Olympics be about increasing transit ridership. And so looking at how are we going to walk, bike, take transit to so many of our sports venues and bake that into every sports venue we have around the state is very, very important. Many people are now taking some of their first trips on transit as a fan of a sports venue or an entertainment venue And this is a way of increasing that ability to get people back on our transit system. So we look forward to seeing how the investment in future preparations for the Olympics and other ways in which we are demonstrating the broadness of mobility to and from major venues is going to help bring back our economy and also prepare us for a decade of really exciting events that are going to put us on the international frontier. We also met with the Caltrans on the 710 North homes and disposition of Caltrans land. As we have been working with Caltrans on looking at homelessness, surplus property throughout the Caltrans system, and then looking at the homes and the disposition with the 710. We have all been on fact-finding missions to look at how these are being discussed in every single city that this is affecting. And we want to increase our invitation to people throughout these corridors that want to talk to us about how they see the disposition of these homes and the ability to meet the goals of the governor to increase the amount of affordable housing we have in the state. We met with Senator Portantino and his staff and members of the city of South Pasadena. We extend the same invitation to elected officials and cities in these corridors. There is so much legislation still to be discussed, but the important thing is how can we make sure that we can bring these projects up to code? How can we make these available for affordable housing and ownership housing? And how do we create pathways with Caltrans so that these new developments can be brought online and we can start meeting the regional housing needs assessment numbers as quickly as possible? It was a very interesting conversation. We look forward to our future listening session with Caltrans and CTC so that we can look at how we can do this in a organized fashion instead of one by one. And we want to thank the elected officials and our discussions with Caltrans about how we move towards new processes, given the fact that the Roverdi bill is decades old, and we really seek to meet the high demand for affordable housing, especially post-COVID. So I want to thank you all for that and open up that avenue. Please contact the CTC offices, and we're in response with a number of other cities that have asked for the same information. I also wanted to highlight that between now and our next meeting, Clean Air Action Day is October 6th. And so we will have probably some more conversation about that, but I wanted to make sure that in my report that we are highlighting the fact that many of our CTC commissioners, both as a commission and individually, are going to be supporting our colleague, Commissioner Joe Liu, head of the Coalition for Clean Air, on a number of great projects for Clean Air Action Day throughout the state. With that, I wanted to highlight something that Commissioner Inman reminded us about, and that is that today has been a very challenging day of many people needing to be evacuated and not being able to connect to Wi-Fi due to their needing to change venues. And so, Douglas, could you please highlight if people need to move from being able to see us on screen, how you would recommend that people connect into these meetings, and just let us know that they're still interested in speaking with us and communicating with us during these 2 days where so much is happening in the state that may involve them needing to change venues.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So when you received your registration email back from the system, it should have provided you a phone number. I believe that phone number is area code 631-992-3221. Along with that, it should have provided you an access code to be able to speak to us. But that phone number will work either way. You should also be able to, on the panel for this webinar, you'll see the audio tab. You click on that, you can click over to phone option, and that also provides that number and that access code. If you want to jot that down quickly in case you think you might be in danger of losing power and will need to call in. You can call in from any cell phone or anything like that. You could also attend the webinar via a cell phone if needed.
Okay, Thank you so much, Douglas. And with that, commissioners, are there any other items that you'd like to present about your activities between now and our next commission meeting? I see Commissioner Gardino. Okay, and we have one public comment on my report. Justin?
Thank you, Chair Norton. We have one public comment. This comes from Jofio Borgia. He writes, please extend our sincerest thanks to Chair Norton, the Commission, and Commission staff for your continued partnership with Sacramento Regional Transit. We couldn't have done these achievements without your help. Together, we are working hand in hand in moving the Sacramento region in recovery through equitable and accessible transportation while driving the rebounding economy of our communities. This is a recognition of our partnership and work together. Thank you.
Wonderful. With that, I do see Commissioner Inman, and next I'll call on Commissioner Kehoe. Commissioner Inman?
Thanks, Chair Norton. And just to reiterate the discussion about the work our CTC team has been doing with the Army Corps. And also, I believe Secretary Kim is going to highlight the combined efforts that we're all working on regarding port congestion. So hashtag system of systems or hashtag everyday's freight day for everybody. More folks, you know, thinking about solutions, the better, I think. So really want to thank our CTC staff and look forward to the opportunity that perhaps we can build on some of the resiliency work that the Army Corps of Engineers has done, particularly around logistics. So excited that maybe we'll get some really good information for all of us. And then I'm not sure if Doug is going to be able to help me out, but in the part of responding where we've been and Mitch having all of his road trips, this is where I've been. So hats off to Commissioner Kehoe. I got to enjoy her wonderful trail and wetland park. So there you go.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Inman. And I did forget to mention all the work that we've been doing, not only on port congestion, but on the future of the 710 South and the work that staff and Secretary Kim and Caltrans and Metro are engaging in to help re-envision that corridor and to look at a response to the EPA letter. And considering her name is on the plaque, let's move to Commissioner Kehoe. Thank you so much, Commissioner Inman. Commissioner Kehoe.
Thanks for sending my picture over. That wasn't why I turned my video on, Madam Chair. I just want you to know. Though I will take advantage of our earlier presentation, this trail is in part the result of the great environmental work that was done on the North Coast Corridor. It is near at the edge of the Del Mar Fairgrounds, along the riverbank, the San Diego River. So it's a wonderful spot. That's my rock. I try to think of it as my rock. But when I saw Secretary Kim, when I saw you come up, I just wanted to say, as I always do when I see you, thank you for all your work on the Del Mar Bluffs and the rail right-of-way. And I'm hoping part of your remarks today, if you could give us even the slightest update on what you think might what could help with Del Mar from the infrastructure bill.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Commissioner Kehoe. I think that concludes all of the remarks from myself and my colleagues. And with that, because there's nothing that I said to take action on, we'll move to Secretary Kim, CalSTA Secretary David Kim.
Well, thank you, Chair Norton, and good afternoon, commissioners, commission staff, and members of the public. I was inspired by Mitch's vacation pictures and also Commissioner Inman, yours as well. And while I don't have any vacation pictures to share with all of you, I recently returned from a road trip. Like some of you, I was on the central coast of California along with Southern Cal, and I drove on I-5, State Route 99, State Route 46, State Route 41 through the Central Valley, and 101 from San Luis Obispo to Santa Barbara. Always tremendous to personally experience our transportation network whether you're traveling on business or vacation or personal reasons. And I always relish those opportunities. And so I'm so glad all of us have had a chance to experience it. Commissioner Liu, glad to hear about your trip to Berkeley and your travel over the Grapevine up I-5 to the Bay Area. So good to share these experiences with one another. I thought I would start with a brief word on the pandemic and the role that Cal State departments are playing on the latest developments. As I think most of you know, Governor Newsom recently unveiled the country's very first policy requiring vaccine verification for all state employees, along with mandatory COVID testing for all unvaccinated employees who are working on site. This is a massive undertaking, especially given the size and scope of the state workforce. And I'm really happy to say that 3 of our departments, Caltrans, CHP, and DMV, have been working closely with the California Department of Public Health and CalHR to come up with initial procedures for implementing this very large testing program. And I think it's clear to everyone that we are at such a critical juncture with the rise of the Delta variant. And we've heard it often before, but it's worth repeating that vaccines are the best form of protection, along with regular testing for those who are unvaccinated in order to prevent outbreaks. And I think the governor deserves a lot of credit for leading the way yet again with this policy. And I'm especially proud that CalSTA's departments are playing such a prominent role in carrying out this new requirement. Another major item that has gotten a lot of media attention lately, and it's very much related to the work all of us are doing, is the recent report by the UN's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Their report looked at the science of climate change, first one since 2013, and I must say it was a very sobering report. Every scenario that was analyzed concluded that it would be very difficult to limit global warming by 1.5 degrees Celsius. That's what all nations agreed to and committed to in the Paris Climate Agreement. And the report says there will be even greater increases in global temperatures unless drastic action is taken to substantially reduce GHG emissions as soon as possible. In fact, the UN Secretary General called the report, quote, code red for humanity. But I will say the report was not all gloom and doom. And in fact, there is still a chance to avoid even more catastrophic outcomes if we can curb emissions boldly and quickly. And that means our collective efforts to reduce emissions in transportation are even more urgent than ever. And so it is very timely that after many conversations and extensive dialogue with our partners over the past almost 2 years, I'm really happy to say that our Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure, or CAPDI, was released on July 12th, and it is on our website for all of you to see. And I want to thank all of our stakeholders for the many hours of engagement and very meaningful feedback you provided to help shape this incredibly important effort. And I think there's no question that CAPDI is a paradigm shift when it comes to transportation planning in California, but a very timely and necessary one as reflected in the UN report. And so as we start to implement the various actions in CAPDI, I want to let everyone know that there will be more engagement opportunities to come, so stay tuned. And while we're on the topic of good timing, you're going to hear a presentation today from Caltrans on the draft 2021 Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, or ITSP. This is one of those tools that will help us meet the climate goals laid out in CAPDI. As you're going to hear in the presentation, Caltrans will conduct robust stakeholder engagement on the ITSP update. And since the ITSP is all about connecting the various regions of the state with one another and doing it in a sustainable way, we definitely look forward to hearing from our regional partners in developing the next ITSP. And that in turn will be the basis for allocating funding through the ITIP and STIP. I want to briefly touch on the state budget, and you heard some of this from Mitch in his report. Since we last met, most of the state budget has been enacted, but there are still a few major items pending, and that includes the comprehensive $11 billion transportation package Governor Newsom proposed in the May revise as part of his California Comeback Plan. And I want to make something crystal clear because there seems to be some confusion. everything the governor proposed in the May revise, active transportation, 500 million for active transportation, grade separation projects, another 500 million, transit investments related to the LA Olympics, $1 billion, a big plus up in TIRCP, another $1 billion. All of these funds will be available only if and when the legislature improves the entire transportation package. And that includes $4.2 billion for high-speed rail, Prop 1A bond funds. And I think it's pretty clear that this is a rare opportunity to make massive and historic investments in our transportation system, as long as the legislature improves the entire package by the end of session, which ends on September 10th. So that is what's at stake, and I just wanted to make sure everyone fully understands where we are on the budget. And I think that's a natural segue to what's happening at the federal level in DC. As you've heard, just last week, the US Senate gave final approval to its bipartisan infrastructure bill known as the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. This is a really big step forward in terms of eventually enacting a multi-year surface transportation reauthorization and infrastructure investment bill. And I think there's a lot to like in the Senate plan. It authorizes more than $270 billion above current funding levels for transportation programs over the next 5 years. And just like the House proposal, known as the Invest in America Act, the Senate plan tackles important areas like climate action and resilience, zero-emission vehicle deployment, equity, and multimodal investment. And beyond funding increases for existing highway and transit programs, the Senate bill creates new programs that will clearly benefit California. For example, there's a new Formula Bridge program that could bring more than $4 billion to California over the next 5 years. There's also a new competitive grant program for major bridge projects. So when we're talking about bridges, they are covered through 2 separate funding streams, one formula and one discretionary. The Senate bill also establishes a brand new $15 billion National Infrastructure Project Assistance Program for mega projects, and that's very relevant to us in California. And it also provides over $5 billion for FTA's low or no emission bus grant program. And this is going to go a long way in helping transit agencies meet our zero emission bus targets. Now, in terms of next steps, it's not entirely clear, although the House is going to interrupt its recess and reconvene next week to take procedural votes on a larger budget reconciliation package, as well as the Senate infrastructure bill. And I do anticipate sometime in the coming weeks, there will be some formal or informal conversation between the House and Senate to work through and possibly combine the 2 versions into a final product. And Madam Chair, as you pointed out in your report, the INVEST Act included some of our high priority policy provisions, and together between the CTC, Caltrans, and CalSTA, we were able to work with the California delegation to make sure they made it into the bill. So for example, the bill would increase the pool of applicants eligible for the DBE program. And it also creates a brand new $3 billion Reconnecting Communities program that would make it possible to remove or repurpose facilities that have negatively impacted communities of color. So for now, what we are doing is closely examining both bills and considering our final communications with the congressional delegation. Bottom line is that we want the final legislation to reflect the very best features of both the Senate and House bills so that we can have the best possible outcome for California. And Commissioner Keough, in response to your inquiry on Del Mar Bluffs, given the very sizable provisions for rail and rail funding in both the Senate and House bills, we think there is a reasonably good chance that California can receive, on a competitive basis, potential future funding to address the long-term needs on the Del Mar Bluffs. As you know, the long-term solution ultimately is to move those tracks inland away from the bluffs. And so I think there's a good chance that with eventual passage of an infrastructure bill, reauthorization bill, we will likely be looking at a much larger, much more substantial rail title than what we've seen in recent years. So fingers crossed, I'm hopeful that we'll see something good come out at the very end.
Thanks very much.
Right. Finally, a brief update on supply chain disruptions and port congestion. And thank you, Commissioner Inman, for bringing this up. A very highly complicated topic that many of us have paid very close attention to over the past many months, including Commissioner Inman and Lou. My team and I have been collaborating closely with GoBiz, along with the Port of Long Beach and Cal State Long Beach's Center for International Trade and Transportation. And together, we are going to launch what we're calling the California Supply Chain Success Initiative. And I'll touch upon this in just a minute. Also, I was part of a roundtable session sponsored by the U.S. Department of Transportation that took place about a month ago. Commissioner Inman was also part of that meeting. Secretary Buttigieg was there, along with Federal Maritime Commission Chair Dan Maffei, and a very large group of supply chain stakeholders. And I would describe the meeting as a very thorough dialogue and an excellent way to launch a conversation that will continue. And just the other day, our initiative kicked off a social media campaign where we are inviting supply chain professionals, researchers, and decision makers to give us input on innovative solutions, and also for them to explain the urgency behind the need to come up with both short-term and long-term solutions. So in terms of upcoming events, I'll mention a few things. We are going to kick off this effort with a virtual workshop on September 1st at 10 a.m. It's going to be organized around a set of themes that will help us prioritize and identify solutions, and will also include videos collected from our social media campaign, which will serve as agenda items and discussion points. And then on September 21st at 12 noon, we'll be hosting a smaller in-person, invitation-only summit meeting. And at that meeting, I would anticipate that key decision makers will be able to come together on a refined set of strategies that will include targeted outcomes and timeframes. FMC Chairman Maffei has confirmed he will attend the summit, and we also expect senior level participation from US DOT. After the summit, we're going to pull together a summary report outlining key findings, as well as items identified and agreed to as part of the call for action. And I must say, I'm really excited to engage in this dialogue with stakeholders. All of us share a common and fervent desire to come up with new ideas and solutions to improve the movement of freight and address all of these supply chain challenges. And I will also say it's incredible to have strong support from our federal partners. As I've said on numerous occasions, even a large state like California cannot solve this on our own. Global solutions will be needed, and we're so grateful to have highly engaged partners, federal partners at DOT and FMC. So more to come on this, and I look forward to working with all of you, particularly Commissioners Inman and Lou. And so with that, Madam Chair, thank you for the time, and I look forward to today's meeting.
Thank you so much for your report, Secretary Kim. We look forward to hearing from you on some future items today as well. With that, we will move to Caltrans Director Tokes Omashakin.
Good afternoon, Chairwoman.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to see you, and thank you for another opportunity to share a little bit about what's going on at Caltrans beyond the traditional work that we do every single day in the department. So I'll share a few highlights, but thanks to you, thanks to commissioners, CTC staff, and members of the public for another opportunity to share about our ongoing work in the department. I will say briefly to Director Weiss on his vacation. He ended up on last chance grade. What he doesn't know is that our district director, Matt Brady, up there knew he was coming and completely cleared the road for him so he could have full range fun as he was traveling through the area. Just joking, Mitch, but I want to thank Matt Brady for all of his work. He and his team, they've moved from 4-hour closures at last chance grade down to intermittent 30-minute closures. So thanks to Matt Brady and the District 1 team for all the work they're doing on last chance grade. Next slide. So traditionally in these meetings, I like to start off by sharing a little bit about a little highlight of Caltrans employees who've gone beyond the call of duty in representing the department and the state. But uniquely today, I want to share a little bit about a group, an entire group of people, specifically some women in District 7 that are part of an organization known as Women, is the actual name of the group. And Women is an acronym that stands for Women's Opportunity to Mentor, Empower, and Network. This group has been meeting quarterly to address issues related to gender equality, encourage conversations on equity, and to improve Caltrans's general organizational culture. So I want to thank the people who were able to form this group, because what can happen in a department our size, more than 22,000 people that work for our department, is people can sometimes get lost in the mix. And to have an organization like this to go to, I think is a great idea to create something like this. One of our former chief deputy directors from District 7, Shirley Schote, once said that women tend to wait till they're overqualified before seeking out opportunities to move up within the organization. And an effort like this helps. Suya Kalishan is to be recognized for helping to create this group. There were more than 10 founding members from District 7. After they were founded, they formed bylaws and identified sponsors for it. And through word of mouth, this group has spread. This organization at the last meeting, the last quarterly meeting in June, had more than 200 attendees, more than 200. And it's important to note that this group is open to all Caltrans employees. You can find more information about it on the District 7 intranet site. So congratulations to the founding members of the Caltrans Women Empowerment Group. Much kudos to you. Thanks for all that you are doing to help Caltrans and the entire state. Next slide. So want to point out that we've appointed an acting director for sustainability. Many of you know Ellen Greenberg, who worked in the department for many years. Ellen Greenberg retired last month. In an acting role, Tony Dang has now stepped into those shoes. Tony joined the department recently with over a decade of experience in the nonprofit sector. He brings a wealth of knowledge to the department from his prior roles in public policy, transportation issues, climate, racial equity, and social justice. He has a degree in comparative studies in race and ethnicity from Stanford University. So please join me in welcoming Tony Dang as he serves in this leadership role and for sustainability for the department. Next slide. So I mentioned just a few highlights of some of the things that we're working on beyond all the project delivery and maintenance work that we continue to focus on every single day at the department. As many of you know, safety is one of our core foundational principles. Every single day we're focused on seeing how we can continue to make the transportation system of the state safer. This particular slide shows that we have 6 priorities that we're honing in on specifically for this current FY, and 5 of those 6 priorities that we're honing in on are a part of our strategic management plan. So following along the planning documents, the guiding documents, I should say, for the department, here are some of the things that we are going to be focused on for safety. Number 1, and I won't go through all of these in detail, but just wanted everybody to be able to see these 6 items. But just briefly on some of these. District traffic plans. We have decided, as you may know, to create a traffic safety plan for each one of the 12 districts across the state to identify some of the core or some of the main issues that we need to address from a safety standpoint in each one of the districts, because they're all very different. District 7 would be very different from District 1 or District 2 as far as the safety challenges go. So we're creating district safety plans. We're expecting that by the first quarter of 2022, we will be able to kick off these district safety plans. Number two, revise our traffic investigation procedures. We're going to be increasing our proactive efforts and strategies around equity to engage local communities on our traffic investigation procedures. We've established a working group that will kick off their work this month. That would include district safety engineers and representatives from our legal department in its efforts to revise our investigation procedures. We're developing policies on proven safety countermeasures. Federal Highways, as some of you may know, they came out with a list of identified proven countermeasures that can reduce crashes. We're working to identify California, our state-specific policies to help locals implement select countermeasures around issues like in-pavement LEDs and pedestrian hybrid beacons. So that work, again, is ongoing about proven countermeasures. And I won't go through the rest of these, but we're developing new traffic safety programs. We're building connections with local and state partners around the HSIP. That's a part of the California Highway Safety Plan, and engaging leaders and staff throughout the department on culture change that we continue to need to grow on within the department to do our safety work at the best absolute level that we can. I'd be remiss before I go into the next slide if I didn't mention the fact that unfortunately we lost 2 members of the construction community to errant vehicles crashing into construction sites within the last month. So 2 fatalities where vehicles ran off of the road and hit people who were working on Caltrans projects. These were not Caltrans staff members. They were from the construction community, but we don't make a difference necessarily between the two. We see the contracting community very much as a part of our team and our Caltrans family. Our condolences to the families that lost loved ones doing this work, but I will continue to harp about the importance of us doing more in this area, and working with the moving public as well, and all of you as partners, the CTC, CalSTA, all of us. This will continue to be an all hands on deck approach to improve safety, especially from a transportation standpoint in the state. Next slide. Go back one more, please. Yeah, thank you. So CAPTI, Secretary Kim touched on this. I think Chair Norton touched on this as well, so I won't go into a lot of detail here. I think much kudos to Darwin, Secretary Kim's team, Alyssa, many of the people who worked on putting this together. Caltrans is excited about it. Many of the initiatives identified there, the action items, we are already engaged in them, and many we're already working on. Look forward to being able to work with the CTC and CalSTA to accomplish many of the initiatives and actions identified there, beyond even the climate-related issues, especially on issues as well related to issues around equity as well. Next slide. So on equity, talked about this a little bit with CAPTI, but again, this remains a core focus for us at the department. I will continue to provide updates on climate, safety, and equity in every one of these CTC meetings. 4 things I just want to briefly mention that we are addressing to continue our equity work. We're working on reconnecting communities, a diverse interview panel pilot, engagement and training across the department, and of course the equity listening sessions that we are partnering with the CTC on. I won't go through each one of these in detail, but the first 2 very briefly, reconnecting communities is an effort that we're undertaking that actually has some language related to it in Kaptai as well. But it's an effort we're undertaking to examine how freeways and highways have divided many communities, as we all know. And the RAISE grant program that the federal government recently announced, we applied for a RAISE grant opportunity through the federal government. We identified 5 locations in California that we could pilot to reconnect the communities. 5 of them, don't know all of them offhand, but for sure LA and San Diego were part of that. And I think even smaller communities like Colton, California, were also on the list. In all, we identified more than 70 locations across the state that we could reconnect. We could possibly look at efforts of how to reconnect those communities. So it's a program that even if we don't get funded through the RAISE grant, we will continue efforts around this at Caltrans. And the diverse interview panel pilot, we're continuing work around seeing how we can send a message to people who have applied for work at Caltrans or looking for promotions at Caltrans to let people know we care about diversity. We care about their opportunity, regardless of their background and gender or ethnicity, race, that we really want to see all people have an opportunity within this department. We're training people on implicit bias and putting those people who are going through the training as a part of the interview panel to represent equity issues. That pilot will soon be kicking off. We're excited to, at some point, share the results of the efforts around that. So I won't go through the last 2 here, engagement training and equity listening sessions, but know that the 4 Ps of equity at Caltrans: people, programs, projects, partnerships, and planet, continue to be a core part of the work that we are doing at your Department of Transportation. Very briefly on the ITSP as well, if you go to the next slide. The 2021 Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, we released it on August 2nd. There are 3 public workshops scheduled around this. One was already held around the ITP scoring criteria on August 12th. Next week, I think it's probably conflicting with another CTC meeting, but on the 24th, we'll be hosting an ITSP meeting in the North, and on the 26th, we'll be hosting an ITSP meeting for Southern California. The final plan, the final ITSP plan is expected to be finalized by October 1st. Next slide. Just briefly on the SHOP and ITIP and STEP fund estimate. We recently completed the project initiation document for new project candidates in the SHOP portfolio. The 2022 SHOP is a fiscally constrained document, as you know, according to our fund estimate. You will hear a little bit more from our division chief, Keith Dunking, on this a little bit later. Our regional partners can expect to receive the 2022 SHOP project listing by December for their review and comment, and we should have the final SHOP ready to present to the commission by April 1st of 2022. On the ITIP, we'll be submitting the ITIP by October 15th of 2021, and the final ITIP we're hoping can be concluded by December 15th, 2021. So a lot of movement and a lot of work happening on the ITIP. And on the STIP as well, the program guidelines and the STIP fund estimate workshop with stakeholders has been taking place across the state. The results of the efforts by both Commission and Caltrans staff will be presented later on in this meeting in the agenda. Next slide. So finally here, there's obvious connection between transportation and water quality issues across the state. I'll take a brief moment before I talk about these water related issues since our June meeting. I'll briefly mention the fact that we are heavily involved at Caltrans on the wildfire related challenges that we continue to see across the state. Several parts, I should say, not many, but several parts of our District 2 office has been impacted. To date, as you may know, more than 500,000 acres, I think roughly 570,000 acres of land have burned with the Dixie Fire that continues to break all types of wildfire records in the state. 10 people from our staff have been impacted by the wildfire. Fortunately, none have actually lost a home, but 10 in total have been impacted within the area, and we continue to pay attention to how we can support those staff members that have been impacted by the fires. So on to the water-related issues that we're working on. Caltrans is entering into this next evolution of our stormwater program. We're advancing neutral environmental stewardship goals alongside our state and regional water board partners and the development of the next statewide stormwater permit. One of the highlights of the existing stormwater permit is our ability to fund a robust municipal coordination grant program that optimizes transportation investments that maximize water quality improvement. We continue to collaborate with the state board in an attempt to sustain fiscally responsible permit flexibilities, such as stormwater grant programs that our partners depend on, as we take a coordinated watershed approach to water quality restoration. A detailed presentation of the new permit will be delivered at the CTC meeting later today that will outline significant changes associated with the cost of compliance to this permit. Finally, want to briefly mention Clean California, the sweeping $1.1 billion initiative that Governor Newsom is leading our state on, and Caltrans is doing the work on with many partners across the state and at the local government level to engage communities on beautifying our highways and creating jobs and education around issues related to our litter. As you know, our goal is to create a lasting and transformative environment that all Californians can take pride in maintaining our public spaces in our beautiful state. We've put together a short video that shows some of the work that's happened. I think the video is only roughly a minute long. And we'll share that video briefly. If Douglas, I think you're manning things here, if you could click on next to show that video. And we're going to release this video publicly within the next week or so. But wanted to briefly share this video with members of the CTC and the public listening in. Chairwoman Norton, that concludes my presentation. I would love to take any questions from commissioners or anybody listening in. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Commissioner Inman, I see that you wish to speak, and I'll ask Justin if we have any public comment. No?
Chair Norton, we do not have any public comment at this time. Thank you.
Great. Let me recognize Commissioner Inman and then Commissioner Eager.
Actually, Chair Norton, I apologize. We do have one written comment that just came in. And I'll read that off. It comes from Don Jones. He writes, does Caltrans maintain a registry of evictions of tenants?
Yeah, that's a very broad question that we need to look. I can look into. We can have our districts that have housing look into. District 7 obviously is one that has more tenants in it than any other district because of housing related to the 710. So that's information I'm sure we likely have, and we can pull that information. If there's a way that person who sent the question in can provide their contact information to staff, we will follow up with that person on the inquiry to provide that information if it's something we can share publicly.
Thank you. Commissioner Inman and then Commissioner Eager.
Thank you, Chair Norton, and thank you, Director Amishaka, as always, for your comprehensive report. A couple of things. One on the last Clean California. How do we keep it clean? You and I have had this conversation before, and I date myself wanting the Lady Bird Johnson no littering, but you know, I think it's great for us to do a full court press and clean it up. But what are we doing, or what can we do collectively to really keep it clean? Because otherwise, my fear is as soon as our team finishes, you know, in a few days, we'll be right back where we were. So any thoughts on what's happening on that?
Commissioner Inman, you're always very on point on this issue. And I always like your reference. Yeah, okay, thank you. I always like your references to Lady Bird Johnson and her efforts around beautifying the country. I think we forget about that a lot, but she did so much to send the country down a direction of beautification efforts. But the main thing I think needs to happen beyond this, going out there, creating jobs and beautifying areas and picking up litter is education. That we have to have a strong education campaign, and we're working on one, to talk about how important it is not to litter, and in a very catchy way, not just a traditional education message, but a message in multiple languages, because California is a very diverse state with many languages, but roll out a broad education campaign. I think people still remember till today the Don't Mess with Texas efforts that still live on. People know that they shouldn't. And we need to have a program like that in California that goes beyond this $1.1 billion 3 years. That's what we need. So thank you for continuing to mention that, the fact that we've got to do that. We got to get beyond just picking up, and we got to get to a place where we stop littering. So we will roll that out, and we'll involve you as well before we roll it out, the education campaign, but it's under development. It's part of the $1.1 billion.
I think some enforcement too. I mean, I grew up in a time when we knew we didn't dare throw anything out the car window because our dad would get it pulled over and get it ticketed. I mean, you didn't do that, you know? So we may have to up some enforcement on that. But the real thing I wanted to talk to you about is really the safety, and thank you for your commitment to safety. We had a segment at our project workshop today, but what it brought forward to me was how much work we collectively need to do. So I don't know, Madam Chair, within what we do, but I'm volunteering to lean in and have further discussions. You know, one of the charts we saw this morning was the number of citations that have been issued for exceeding 100 miles per hour. And my very simple thing was, do we throw the book at those folks in terms of nobody should be driving over 100 miles an hour? And I'm guessing that a lot of our fatalities, I don't know how you're in an accident going 100 miles an hour and not have fatalities. So whatever we can do, I think to really maybe just peel some of those, look at the connectivity between, you know, is it distracted driving connected with excessive speeds? One of the other charts showed improper turning, and I know that there's a lot of stuff that goes, what does that really mean? Does it mean I'm going too fast so I can't properly navigate a curve? But I think and I'm going to volunteer my fellow commissioners, whatever we can do to really figure out how we can move the needle faster to stop the number of fatalities. I mean, I'm going to volunteer all of us. So there you go. I get in trouble for doing that. But whatever we can do, I think, and you know, the truck parking study told us that we have one fatality every other week involving a parked truck. So that's a vehicle not even moving. And I'm thinking, okay, under hours of service law, we're concerned with safety, but have we created an unintended consequence that actually is worse than the problem we're trying to solve? So do we need the truckers to have a little gray time so they can get safely off the road? You know, whatever, but whatever we can do to help you so we can collectively reduce the number. And Madam Chair, I don't know exactly what my ask is within what we can do. Thank you.
So very briefly, Commissioner Inman, just want to say that some of the things you mentioned, distracted driving and speed, are no doubt some of the largest culprits with this issue. Even with the freight, the trucking issue you just mentioned, the reason why those collisions are happening is because people are distracted. I mean, you shouldn't, if you're paying attention, you shouldn't run into a truck that's safely parked away from a roadway. So very much connected. But what we're really focused on within the department, and you saw from my list of 6 things, is our responsibility to create a safer system. We need to continue to talk to the general public and engage the general public about behavioral things like speeding and being distracted. But we very much have a responsibility in creating a safer system for people, so that if there is an error, if there is a mistake, that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a serious injury, or that that means that person loses potentially their life or cost somebody else their life. So creating a safe system is a priority. I think our system is safe, but we can always do better. We can always identify opportunities to continue to make that system much safer. So whatever Commissioner Inman, whatever you want to do as far as, you know, helping with the general public or even a safe systems approach, please reach out to us, Chairwoman Norton or Director Weiss, and we'll be glad to be a part of that.
Thank you. I'd like to instruct Mitch, while we are on this topic, that we can set up a task force, and in the same way that we talked about CTC and staff working on freight issues, to do the same with safety, and that's safety for drivers, walkers, bikers, and people who are in construction along these corridors, in a partnership with Caltrans.
Sure, we will see how we can best coordinate our efforts with Caltrans.
That's great. Thank you. So we will be working with you, Director Omishakin, and we want to lean in on this issue. It's such a concern, and this should not be an outgrowth of the COVID-19 reduction in our traffic, that we have an increase in fatalities, and that's just very tragic. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Eager?
Yes, well, this fits right in with what I was going to say. So I'll be the first to volunteer for whatever committee that is on safety issues. I did want to say a special thank you to Director Omishakin for joining us in the Valley. He came on a Zoom with the local elected officials local transportation staff, some of our residents, to really talk about an issue that you all know, the State Route 41 South. And that really is the epitome of a safety issue that, we've all talked about, let's finish what we start. And what we finish, what we started will lead to safer roads. Because if you're going from 4 lanes to 2 lanes to 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and some of those safety issues we know are people passing when it's the 2 lanes because they're not ready for it, whether they're not paying attention or whatever that is, that does lead to a lot of deaths also. But I know, Director, you're coming on those calls, and your commitment to these issues and these safety issues means a lot to all of us on the commission and in this state. And so I just want to say a special thank you. I know it meant a lot to all of those folks on that call.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Eager, and thank you for your leadership and your passion and concern for State Route 41. I mean, at the end of the day, what we want to do is get away from numbers that we're seeing today of 10 people every day.
Yeah.
We can't take any joy away from, any relaxation away from seeing numbers like that. That we're in this space as leaders in the state, and 10 people every day on our system perish because of one reason or another, mistakes, intentional something. So much more work to be done, but on the efforts in our District 6 area with Diana Gomez, our district director, and 41 specifically. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Commissioner Eager. Commissioner Davis, you're muted.
Most of the time people like it that way with me. I just wanted to thank Director Omishakin for referencing the fatalities that have taken place, and along with my 2 fellow commissioners volunteered to be part of whatever that process is. And on the call earlier today, we're more than willing to engage our health and safety department out of our Washington D.C. office. A lot of professional folks that spend full time on safety, and so we want to be part of the solution because it affects us and our contractors and our members day in and day out. So, but thanks for keeping that at the top of your list, Talks.
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Along with us as partners in the public sector, we have to engage the industry. As you know, I met with the president of AGC this week to discuss these issues as well, because it has to be on both sides and the general public, the moving public as well. So I know you're a big part of the industry. So thank you, Commissioner Davis, for your commitment as well.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Finally, I wanted to commend you for the work you're doing to empower women in your staff. And we, as women commissioners, would love to have the opportunity to meet district-wide or Zoom together to talk about women in transportation, the work we've been doing, and to compare notes. Because, women, especially women in transit, getting women back onto the system, and with so many women who have left the work world because they are staying home with children during COVID and bringing us back, we would love to have that conversation. And we just thank you for your leadership in amplifying the voices of women on your staff and on your team. And we would love to do our part as well.
Thank you, Chairwoman Nord. The next meeting for that group, I'm not sure when it is. It's quarterly, but we'll follow up and see if they have an opportunity for the women on the commission to drop in and just say a few words and thank them for those efforts. So thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I wanted to also mention that the photos that you showed of Los Angeles in terms of cleanup, the cleanups that you were doing that we've witnessed in Los Angeles County were far worse, and you made them far better. And I want to commend you for all the ways, with the governor in tow, picking up trash himself. It has changed how people perceive about whether or not California is ready to come back from this economy and the COVID-19. Those perceptions, just by trash and how we're addressing humane issues regarding homelessness on these corridors. Your work is so important as to what we're going to be known for in California. And we thank you for leaning in on that as well.
The governor is to be commended. It's awe-inspiring how he gets out there for hours, whether it be an encampment or a cleanup site. It's unbelievable how committed he is to seeing our state rebound and come back. So appreciate his leadership. Thank you, Chairwoman.
Thank you so much. With that, we'll end this report and move to Vince Mamano from FHWA.
Good afternoon. Hey, just wanted to follow up on your safety discussion. The biggest flag we have in safety is our strategic highway safety plan. So I want to encourage everybody to recognize that that strategic highway safety plan addresses every single thing I heard you all talk about just a minute ago. And to get involved, instead of having a bunch of people going out in different directions, which is helpful also, but I would engage to see how best that may fit and how maybe that can be enhanced with the involvement of the commission. I think that's just probably the starting point I would recommend looking at, just to see if that's the best place to leap from in that area, because it hits pedestrians. It covers it covers speed, it covers the all the 4 E's, and it covers everything in safety. And maybe there's some opportunity to really focus in getting some people involved in some of the different areas that you'd like to focus on. So, but it definitely covers the whole gamut. And that's the thing we're trying to encourage everybody to get involved in. So I appreciate that. And this is the second meeting I've had today where I've had kind enough people to take care of all of my presentation prior to me. So I had a meeting earlier with Tokes. We were with the Native American Advisory Committee this morning. And I want to commend that, again, I want to commend Caltrans in having that advisory committee, working with them. Just in that advisory committee, just today, a quick snippet, one of the tribes in North Country had asked Caltrans about forest roads and evacuation and keeping maintenance on those and having to deal with the Forest Service. And Caltrans volunteered Tokes volunteered as district directors to work with the Forest Service in those regions to help keep those roads clear, maintenance, keep the maintenance up on it, free of debris and everything, so that if there was an evacuation needed, that they'd be able to evacuate. So that committee is just such a great opportunity to hear different things. And we had 3 different branches of Federal Highway were in that meeting today. And there's a lot of involvement in that. And I just want to encourage everybody to continue reaching out to tribes and seeing how they should be involved and how we should be working with them. A couple things David talked about, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. That's the Senate bill that came out. I keep talking about making sure we recognize we still need a reauthorization of the surface transportation, right? We still need a reauthorization. Well, the reauthorization is included in that. So the 5-year reauthorization of the FAST Act, essentially, that's our surface transportation authorization. So the 5-year reauthorization is included in that Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So that's just a little nuance I'm not sure everybody saw. But that's included in there. There's a lot going on there. It's 5 years. And David already hit all what the next step is for the House next week. There's the ATC MTD NOFO Notice of Funding Opportunity that closes on August 23rd. Another thing that we have out right now is it's going to be coming out is, so California is one of the states that has NEPA assignment. So Caltrans is responsible for the NEPA determination on highway projects in California. And we are in the process of updating our 327 MOU, which is EAs, EISs, and categorical exclusion. So it covers all of those. So we're in the process of that, and hopefully that'll be in the register soon, in the Federal Register soon, so that anybody can have any comments on that if they have any comments. In the interest of time, I won't get into elaborating on these, but I just wanted to share with you the new US DOT strategic goals. Some of their focus areas are safety, economic strength, equity, climate and sustainability, transformation, and organizational excellence. So it really lines up with a lot of what we hear in, with the commission, with California. So there's a lot of overlap there. So I think we're in aligned very nicely here in California with the federal goals that we have. And lastly, I just wanted to hit on something real quick. I've talked about inactive obligations before. So inactive obligations are, we authorize a project. So we have authorization, and then if a project isn't billed on within a year, so if you don't send Caltrans, if a local or Caltrans doesn't send us a bill on that project within a year, it's considered an inactive obligation. Maybe an active project, but they haven't billed us to look at that. The target for the nation is 2% of inactives. So 2% of our 4 billion that we get here is that number. So we're looking at about it should be about $80 million that should be inactive as expected, because there's reasons. There's NEPA delay, there's all kinds of reasons why there might be. So we are expecting that. Right now we're at $240 million that has not been on projects that have not been built for over a year. So we have $240 million out there. So what I'm trying to encourage everybody to do is I'm looking at the local agencies now. So if you're looking at me, I need the local agencies to bill on these projects, to make sure that money is getting spent. The reason I say, one of the reasons I say that is this is our Office of Investigator General. This is an area they look at because that's the potential for issues. And the other thing is when someone looks around and says, hey, do you all need money? And then they look in a pocket over there and they say, well, there's 240 million that's been out there that hasn't been spent in over a year. They don't need money. I don't know that anybody says that, but that's something I'd be concerned about. That's something I would worry. I'm looking to try and get that money out there, get it invested in the projects, get it spent when we get that money authorized. So I just want to encourage, we're working with Caltrans and the districts and the district local assistance engineer, the DLAEs in each of the districts to try and get the local agencies to bill on these projects. So I want to encourage everybody for that. And I'm sorry, Mitch and David, I don't have time for a vacation. So I would send you a picture of me with a bottle of wine in my backyard, but I'm not allowed to do that either. So no vacation pictures for me. And that's all I got.
Well, thank you.
Were we invited to the backyard?
Yeah, Joe, you're invited to the backyard, Joe. It's got a pool, so you may not come out.
Well, I can bring the bottle.
All right, then this is all
good. That's great. Well, thank you very much. Justin, do we have any public comments on Vince's report?
No, we don't have any public comment at this time.
Well, thank you as always, and we'll get you started on your next bottle of wine in the backyard as quickly as possible. Have a great day. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We'll go to our regional agencies moderator. Thank you very much, Dawn. Appreciate your being here.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioners. I'm Dawn Batiste with the San Diego Association of Governments, or SANDAG. I'm the new moderator this year for the Regional Transportation Planning Agency Group. We held our meeting yesterday afternoon, and we did hear that Naveen Habib would be staffing Solutions for Congested Corridors program for the CTC. So we would like to welcome her to her new role, and we all look forward to working with her and Matthew on the Cycle 3 activities. We began our meeting yesterday with a panel discussion on budget and legislation, both state and federal. And we do very much appreciate all of the panelists from Caltrans, CTC staff, CalCog, and the California Transit Association, who provided us with updates and some great information to keep us current on transportation funding and policy at both the state and national levels. The RTPA group is ready and eager to work with the state on future implementation of state and federal legislation, particularly a new federal act. So we're excited at the prospect. We did hear some great news from Federal Highways that the first region-to-region transfers of urbanized surface transportation funding were completed this year. And I want to point out these types of transfers will help regions in California work collaboratively to continue to move the economy by making sure funding for projects that are ready to construct in one region get moving while allowing other regions to continue to develop their projects. And then those regions would be repaid with another transfer for their own projects when they're ready to construct. And this has been allowable for a while under federal law, but this year the California division worked with Caltrans and with a few of our regions to really develop and document a process by which to execute these transfers. And so I want to particularly acknowledge Jose Luis Caceres of SACOG for leading the effort on behalf of the MPOs and RTPAs, and then Caltrans local assistance and Vince's team for executing these transfers this year and getting us started in the right direction so we can keep moving the economy in California. So CTC staff provided updates for us yesterday on the STIP development, the SB1 program workshops and guidelines, and some planned engagement strategies for the next ATP cycle. And so you can expect to see active participation from the RTPAs in the guideline development workshops as we all are working together to further to make further progress towards achieving the local, regional, state, and national transportation related goals and objectives. We were also very pleased yesterday to have the Acting Inspector General, Diana Antony, and the Assistant Chief Deputy Inspector General, Francis Parmley, provide us with a presentation on their fiscal year 21-22 audit plan that gave us some insight into what is coming up this year. And they also provided a staffing update for the Audits and Investigations Office. So we very much appreciate that. Caltrans planning staff came and provided us an update on the recently released draft ITSP and key dates for the North and South hearings that most of us will be participating in. We were pleased to hear an update from local assistance on the Clean California program. All the discussions on this program today are very good to hear because we are ready to actively participate in the workshops and help finalize guidelines and grant procedures to help put available funding to work on projects throughout the state that will help benefit all of our local communities as well. We heard good news from local assistance that the Local Obligation Authority, or OA, is expected to be fully used this federal fiscal year, and that there is also some room to accept and use August redistribution. So we appreciate the discussions and the collaboration throughout this entire year with Caltrans local assistance to make sure that no OA is lost. Finally, we discussed several policies and working group activities with local assistance, as well as upcoming training day for the regional planning agencies. And so we do continue to appreciate the collaboration and the open communication on the policies we're discussing. So we plan to continue our meetings in virtual format for at least through the end of this year, but we really are looking forward to trying to get back together in person sometime in the near future. And so that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair Norton, I see no public comment at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you very, very much. Appreciate your presence, John, and thank you for your time. Okay. With that, we'll move to the Rural Counties Task Force Chair, Nafili Barrett.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Nafili Barrett, Secretary of the Rural Counties Task Force and Executive Director of the Mendocino Council of Governments. I'm reporting today because unfortunately our Chair, Woody Deloria, has been evacuated for fire and was unable to participate. So our thoughts go out to Woody and all of the Californians being impacted by fires right now. Rural Counties Task Force last met on July 16th, where we received reports from several CTC and Caltrans staff members and discussed a wide range of issues that are facing our 26 rural counties. Lori Waters provided a report on the active transportation program, and we discussed the possibility of a rural ATP workshop. We look forward to participating in guideline development for the ATP, along with the other SB1 competitive programs. As always, we appreciate CTC staff's efforts to include the rural regions in this process and ensure that our voice is heard. We also received a presentation on the Innovative Concepts program and appreciated the opportunity to submit proposals. Many rural RTPAs and local agencies submitted project concepts, and we look forward to the next steps in the process. Examples of project concepts included wildlife crossings, microtransit for remote communities, and Rails with Trails projects. Scott Sauer from Caltrans provided an update on the development of the 2021 Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan. The ITSP is a critical document for many rural regions that depend on a safe and effective interregional network for essential connectivity, prosperity, and quality of life. However, we do have concerns that the weighted scoring criteria proposed in this updated plan may disadvantage rural counties. Rural representatives will be meeting with Caltrans staff to discuss and hopefully resolve these concerns. We appreciate Scott Sauer's continued efforts to coordinate with the rural counties throughout ITSP development and look forward to working with him and other staff to ensure that the final ITSP equitably serves all of California's diverse regions. The RCTF also discussed a topic that seems particularly relevant today: the importance of emergency evacuation routes in rural areas and the need to identify and prioritize improvements to those routes to improve safety in times of emergency. It's our hope that the new funding for climate change adaptation will help in this area. Finally, on behalf of the rural counties, I want to again thank CTC and Caltrans staff and acknowledge their efforts to be helpful and supportive to all of the RCTF member agencies. They continue to go above and beyond and to be sure that all regions of California have an opportunity to be involved in the statewide processes. And we're very thankful for their thoroughness and inclusiveness. And with that, I'll conclude my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, I see none wish to speak and that we have no public comments on this very thorough report. I want to thank you for coming today and for sharing with us the things that are going on with the Rural Counties Task Force. Thank you so much. With that, we're going to move to the Self-Help Counties Coalition Executive Director, Keith Dunn.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Keith Dunn here on behalf of the Self-Help Counties. I always enjoy going last. I've got, as Vince said, everybody covered a lot of the issues. So what I'm going to tell you is I'm just completing a memo to our 25 counties to make sure that we send bills to Vince. He didn't stipulate that those had to be federal bills, so we're just going to send all the bills to Vince. And since he's not taking vacation, he can plow through them. So we always appreciate the opportunity for the feds to pay our bills. Thanks, Vince. Self-Help Counties is I appreciate Secretary Kim's comments on the transportation package that the administration has pending before the legislature. I think that we all are anxiously awaiting and hoping that we're going to have some opportunities for the legislature to come together with the administration. Secretary Kim mentioned the number of funding potentially that would revert back to the general fund if there's not action taken. You know, from the Self-Help Counties perspective, obviously that's a decision for the legislature and the governor's office. But what we will say is that it's an opportunity to really leverage those funding dollars with the federal government. And we're hopeful that, as you know, Vince mentioned, the package that came out of the Senate, that we have something in the House and that we're going to be able to leverage all of our dollars here in California. As a state, we need to make sure that we're moving forward together and getting every dollar that we can from the federal government. We're a donor state. We pay more taxes than we get back, and it's critical that we put forth our best effort to try and attract those dollars back. So it's something that we're very, very anxiously awaiting and hoping to have success with. Self-Help Counties is looking forward to participating in CAPTI moving forward and all the different, stormwater permit opportunities to comment. I'm looking forward to the presentation today. I will say that we're also working on what is going to be our second virtual focus on the future. I remain disappointed that we find ourselves at another virtual event. I know I share those same disappointments that many of you do, but as a matter of safety, it was decided long ago that that's what we were going to be proceeding as. But we're looking forward to having CTC participation. We're building the agenda as we speak. I know we'll have an update from the chairwoman, and look forward to hearing all the great things that are going on there at the CTC that we haven't covered today. So with that, I just would say that we always appreciate the opportunity to work together as we look at fundamentally changing our transportation policy through CAPTI and other programs. The voice of the local agencies is going to remain critical, and we look forward to that participation. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Keith. And do you have a date for Focus on the Future?
It's Monday, the 15th and 16th of November. So we've got a few months out, and we'll be in touch with your staff and look forward to always having your updates and input. And thank you very much.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I see that we have, I don't believe, any public comment on this item. Justin, is that right? And
Yes, Chair Norton, that is correct.
any comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, I thank you for your report, and we look forward to seeing you at our next meeting, Keith.
Thank you.
With that, thank you. Justin, I know you're on tap, ready to present to us. However, we're going to take a short break and come back for your report. Okay? It is now about 1:45. Let's come back at 1:55. Thanks.